Okay, we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to create a second or a secondary view. Our front view of our bench is our primary view, and we are going to extend or project a right side view. Looking at what this looks like orientation-wise, our front view of a bench without backrest here. If this was our front view of our tape measure, we would take the tape measure and rotate it 90 degrees and look at a right side view. Similarly, we would rotate this way to see a top view. And with the tape measure, it's another good example of maybe we don't need a third view in order to really fully understand what's going on here. And with this bench project, other than fastening through the tops and knowing where to put screws there, that might be an advantage of having a top view. But right now we're just going to draw a right side view. What I want you to notice is that the right side view is on the same plane or aligned horizontally, shares the same line with the front view. That's super important. We've got a little bit of spacing in here, enough for dimensioning, so we can put some overall numbers and some critical dimensions in between here. So we're going to slide over a little bit and just create some space between these. But we can use a lot of what we've already drawn to figure out where these heights need to be. There's a few other numbers I'm going to have to give you, and we'll figure out the rest as we go here. So I happen to know, based on this drawing, that the base is about 24.5 inches wide if it's done correctly. I also know that this point right here aligns vertically with the back of the bench, and that the toe in the front extends out about 1.5 inches past the front edge of the bench seat itself. So our 24.5, that's going to be our a driver number for us to figure out like how wide is this thing on paper. And if we use our scale, and again, moving over, we know that we're going to start off of this bottom edge because this is earth, flat, ground level. We're going to come over here. If we can go over 1 inch, let's go over 1.5 inches, so 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to set a point here. And I want to see if my 24.5 is going to fit in here. That would be about 4.5 inches. It should be. No, 24.5 would be 4 inches. 1 inch equals 6 inches in real life. 2 inches is 12 inches. 3 inches on paper is 18 in real life. 4 is 24, and then 1/2 inch is going to be 1/3 of a block. So it's going to be something like that right there. And that actually fits pretty nice. We got enough space in there. We got about 1.5 inches over here. So we're going to call that good. So we are 4 and about 1/8 inches over. 4 and 1/8 inches over. Something else I figured out that's just going to help us is because these are cut at a 30-degree angle, the bottoms here, they're longer than our 7.5 inch board width, or 7.25. They're actually about 9 inches in length. So we're going to use that number to make life a little easier on us here. Now, if we are rotating the bench to the right, that means that toe is going to stick out about 1.5 inches past the front edge of our bench. And it's 9 inches across the bottom flat. So 9 inches on here is going to be, this would be 6 inches, it'd be 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna draw 1.5 inch line here. That's gonna be one angle going up, and then I'm gonna come from here and come back 1.5 inches. So I set my 1.5 inches on that, come back to the end of the ruler, and I've got my two bottoms of my feet right here. They are going to, this one's going to extend all the way up, and this is where I can use my orthographic projection. If I come across here with a straight edge along the top of the bench, and then I line that up with where the back of the bench meets right here, I'm going to create a point, a coordinate, if you will. Should be right there. So that coordinate point matches up with here and here. And then I'm going to have a diagonal that runs, well, that's not quite right. I got to shift forward a little bit. That's going to be the back of the bench, but I'm going to have a piece here, and then it'll run diagonal all the way down to here. How do I figure out how wide that piece is? It'd be right here, and I can actually figure out the math on it. If the board is 7.5 inches, and I'm taking 4.5 inches off of it, that piece on the top is 3 inches. That's a good number for us. So that means I'm going to come back here 2 squares, and then I'm going to start my angle down to the front. So I'm going to draw my 2 square line, and I'll show you that. That's a 3 inch flat on top of the bench. And then the leading edge of the board should go from here all the way down to here. The back edge of the board is going to be parallel until it hits a point where it goes more vertical. And we'll figure that out next. And I got some other tricks for that. So I'm going to draw this leading edge of the board because here I'm going to see on my side view that leading edge of the board is going to be solid. It covers up this other leg support, so that's going to be a solid. I'm going to draw that whole board in right now. All right, so let's go from our 3 inches in all the way down to our front point there and draw a solid line. Then we slide over, and this is going to go here to a point where it goes vertical. Now that point where it goes vertical is going to be where it attaches to this second backrest. This is where the angle cut, let me be clear on this. This is where this angle cut starts, right there, or notice right there, the angle cut starts where the bottom of the second backrest board is. So I can transfer that line over of the second backrest board right here. I know that that comes straight over, and I can go to the back of my board. It's going to be something like that right there. Where this intersects, and notice I am parallel here, so my 9-inch difference here, where this intersects is where it's going to change angles and meet up here. So I just made an intersect point from straight over here, parallel along this, and then I'm going to go up like this, and that's my backrest angle. And I can connect this together now. Okay, that's my one angle cut leg long. And now I'm going to draw the short one in. And the short one, I'm going to again use some of these lines. This is the top of the front edge of my bench. I have 2 layers there. Remember, it's going to angle back a little bit. So that line right there, if we bring it over, and remember that the toe sticks out 1.5 inches beyond. So here, if I come up, if I brought this straight up here and then back 1.5 inches, that's the leading edge of the front of my board. It's going to taper back this way. I also know that this board is going to end up about 1.5 inches back. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's do this. The back bottom edge, the back top edge of the board is going to be 1.5 inches down. It drops about 1.5 inches. So from here to, let's see where that fills in here. It should be, trying to figure out where this seat is going to stop. Oh, and I know how I do that. That should be about 15 inches apart. So on paper, this is 6 inches, 12. This would be 15 inches right here. So I want it to be 2.5 inches is going to be the total distance of my seat, or 15 inches. And then I want it to drop down 1.5 inches. So right here to right here, that's 2.5 inches. And I'm going to draw a line that is 1.5 inches long, because that would represent 8 inches. And then I'm going to leave a little gap, and I'm going to draw the rest in. Oh, it should be a little shorter than that, 7.5. But those are my 2 board segments. If I can come up with an eraser. I don't have one. Oh, actually, I got a little trick. This might work. The back of a tape measure. Apparently, the rubberized coating on these tape measures works as an eraser. Pretty cool. So, 1.5 inches down, and then follow that line back. That's board number 1. And board number 2 is going to come in about right here. Remember, we've got that gap between the 2 boards for drainage. And then this is technically going to be a hidden line, which means it would have dashes in it. We're getting really fancy here. I should have drawn it dashed right away. And what that indicates is that that line is disappearing behind something else that's solid, in this case, that longer leg. So I'm going to draw a dashed line here and then bring it back up. And that's my seat right there. And now I just need to connect these 2 points. My other, let's go on this side here, and my other leg, I'm going to go about 1.5 inches back and connect these 2 points. Solid line where I can see it, so solid line right there, then a dashed line because it's behind that board, and then solid line to there. I'm also going to connect from right here to right here. And for the most part, so I'm looking to see that these 2 lines are parallel, my front edge and my back edge. Dashed line here, and then solid line all the way down to the corner. Okay, that is my right side view. I need a few more hidden lines up here, and maybe you'll see why. If I turn this to the side, behind this is going to be my backrest boards that butt in here. So they are 7.5 inches by 1.5 inches. They're 1.5 inches wide. And if we extend this over, we want the first one to end about right here, because I'm looking at where does this one end. So I come over here and 1.5 inches out, and then I'll draw a dashed line here. I want to be parallel, so let's go like that. And then a dashed line over. And I need another one below that. And it would line up with this backrest right here, so it's going to come all the way down to about there, 1.5 inches in, that's my corner. Leave my gap between the boards. There's a dashed line. And those are my 2 backrests. They didn't come out perfect, but they're not bad. I do want to include some fasteners in here now, so I'm going to put screws that are 3/4 down, 3/4 in. I'm just going to draw some button heads in here. Those are those big Torx leg construction screws. They're going to go in like that. On the we'll see those on the outside. We're going to have some more construction screws that go in and tie these legs together. Now that, I want you to figure out a center line between these, and this is how you're going to lay this out. You're going to go center line this way. So I'm at 1.25 inches for total width. When I turn it perpendicular to the board, that would be 5/8 of an inch would be center. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to draw a guide line in and put a C in it. That's my center line this way. I'm going to go this way and do the same thing. There's my 1.25 inches. I'm going to find 5/8. And then what we're doing to put these together is we're going to end up, we go down like 2.5 inches, or we follow these guidelines to put our screws in, but you can just space them out visually evenly. 2.5 would be like 3 squares, but it's turned at a 45. 2.5 inches would be like 2 squares on the paper, but because it's turned at a 45, I'm just going to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can see that looks pretty symmetrical and even. You'll actually do some layout and spacing for those. More cool stuff. We can put some screws in here holding these boards down. One is going to be on the center of this board. So if we measured and marked the center, that'd be 5/8. We're going to have a screw that's here, and you could draw hidden lines like this. Want to get really fancy, you can put some threads across it, and then here's our button head right here. We'll have another one right here at the end of the board that's 3/4 of an inch in. And 2 more on the back here. These kind of interfere with each other, but they'll be at different locations on the board. Last button head back here for our Torx leg construction screws. Those are our screws holding that down. So we have everything pretty much identified and located for our working drawing in 2 views. If we could fit a top view in here, we might be able to squeeze it in. That would be 24.5 from front to back, so that is a total of 3 inches. Well, it's really tight. do we need to do it? We kind of know that these screws go in here. If we wanted to draw those in, they would look like this. From right here, they'd be down. And a button head right there, because that would be visible. Button head. Those screws hold down here. These screws would go, again, they align all the way over, but button head here, hidden lines. There's our fasteners. The last ones we need are down here, and they get a little messy because they're kind of in line, but hey, let's draw them. We'll just draw 2 for each side because they kind of stack over the top of each other. There's 1, and if we bring that across, 2. And 1. 2. And that's showing all of our fasteners hidden as well. I missed pretty badly on this one. There. Okay, we'll take a little break at this point, and then we're going to talk about writing in that cut list up here.